You believe success begins with luck, or perhaps you think it starts with money, connections, or even circumstance. Many will tell you that education or opportunity determines your outcome. But the truth is far more powerful and far more personal. Success begins in the mind. It is born in thought, nurtured by belief, and made invincible through the cultivation of a positive mental attitude. Not just any attitude, but one that refuses to quit, one that persists beyond discouragement, one that turns obstacles into stepping stones. This is the force identified as the very foundation of greatness, the mental habit of persistence rooted in optimism. Life, as you know, is a relentless examiner. It does not test you once and then release you. It tests you every day through disappointments, betrayals, failures, and sudden setbacks. Each blow is an invitation to quit, to doubt, to abandon your purpose. But the individual who has trained his mind to maintain a positive attitude, regardless of circumstance, possesses a shield that no difficulty can pierce. This is not blind cheerfulness. It is a conscious mastery of thought, a refusal to surrender inner control to external events. If you master this one discipline, you hold the master key to every door of opportunity. Consider the law of dominant thoughts. Whatever occupies the majority of your mind takes shape in your life. Think defeat, and defeat will find you. Think doubt, and doubt will erode your confidence. Think poverty, and poverty will shadow your steps. But think victory, and conditions begin to conspire in your favor. Think abundance, and opportunities multiply. Think courage, and your very body fills with the energy to act boldly. Your thoughts are not passive. They are magnets, broadcasting frequencies that shape your reality. The subconscious mind does not discriminate between truth and falsehood, good or bad, helpful or harmful. It simply records what you repeat and manifests it outwardly. Therefore, if you want an attitude that never quits, you must first master the currents of your own thought life. Train yourself to dwell on victory, to see possibility where others see limitation, to believe in outcomes that have not yet materialized. For the mind is a garden, and unless you plant seeds of success daily, weeds of failure will grow by default. Quitting is the greatest enemy of success. Most people fail not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunity, but because they quit too soon. Think of Thomas Edison, who failed over 10,000 times before the invention of the light bulb. Think of Henry Ford, mocked for attempting to create an 8-cylinder engine when experts said it was impossible. Each of these men faced enough rejection to crush an ordinary spirit. Yet what separated them from the masses was not brilliance nor luck, but a mental attitude of persistence, an absolute refusal to surrender. Every rejection became fuel. Every failure became a lesson. Every obstacle became a test of worthiness. And through persistence, they built empires. The question you must ask yourself is this: how many rejections does it take before you abandon your dream? How many failures before you lower your sights? How many obstacles before you convince yourself you were never meant to succeed? Every time you quit, you send a signal to your subconscious mind that surrender is acceptable. You program yourself for mediocrity. You weaken the spiritual muscle of persistence. But every time you push forward despite resistance, you program yourself for triumph. You strengthen your identity as someone who refuses to be conquered. And identity is destiny. If you wish to build a positive attitude that never quits, you must identify and conquer its enemies. Fear is the first and greatest enemy. Fear of criticism, fear of poverty, fear of rejection, fear of failure. Fear robs initiative and paralyzes potential. Doubt follows closely behind. Doubt whispers in your ear, asking, "What if I fail?" and drains the energy of conviction. Then come excuses, the subtle poison that convinces you that circumstances or other people determine your destiny, allowing you to shift responsibility away from yourself. Negativity spreads like infection. Complaining, gossiping, focusing on problems instead of solutions, and finally quitting, the silent assassin of ambition. If you allow any of these enemies to dominate, your attitude collapses and your purpose dies a slow death. Persistence is the backbone of greatness. A positive mental attitude without persistence is like a candle in the wind, shining for a moment, extinguished at the first storm. But a positive attitude fused with persistence is like a roaring fire, resilient, unshakable, growing stronger in the very face of wind. Persistence is not stubbornness, it is spiritual stamina. It is getting up after every fall. It is continuing to work when tired. It is believing when no evidence justifies belief. It is knocking on doors until they break, not because you are desperate, but because you are determined. And here is the secret. Persistence itself generates power. Every time you persist, you expand your capacity. Every time you refuse to quit, you harden your spirit. Every time you endure, you declare to the universe, I am worthy. And eventually the universe yields, but persistence alone is not enough. It must be married to faith. A positive mental attitude is not naive optimism. It is faith that you were not born to be defeated, faith that circumstances do not define you, faith that tomorrow will yield fruit if you plant today's seed. Faith is the fuel, action is the engine. Faith without action is daydreaming, and action without faith is drudgery. But faith combined with consistent action produces miracles. Understand that no one wakes up with a permanent, unbreakable attitude. It is forged through daily practice. It is built as a muscle through repetition and discipline. Begin your mornings with affirmations. Speak to yourself with power. I am capable. I am resilient. I am destined for greatness. Write daily gratitudes. For gratitude multiplies abundance and fixes the mind on what is working, not what is lacking. Visualize your goals as already achieved, for the mind must become familiar with victory before the body can create it. Guard your input, for the mind becomes what it consumes. Eliminate gossip, idle chatter, and destructive media, replacing them with wisdom and growth. Act daily toward your purpose, even in small steps, for daily compounding builds unstoppable momentum. Focus on the power of definiteness of purpose. Without it, your mind wanders, and a wandering mind is the playground of negativity. A definite purpose channels energy, ignites faith, and transforms pain into meaning. When you know exactly what you want and refuse to stop until it is achieved, setbacks lose their sting. Criticism becomes irrelevant. Failures become feedback. Purpose gives you a reason to fight, a reason to persist, a reason to rise. Without purpose, persistence fades. With purpose, persistence becomes inevitable. Yet even with purpose, your environment matters. Environment is amplifier. If you surround yourself with complainers, you will complain. If you live among the lazy, you will struggle to act. If you fill your ears with doubt, your mind will echo doubt. You must therefore become the guardian of your environment. Surround yourself with encouragers, with dreamers, with those who stretch you higher. Fill your home with reminders of your future, not your past. Protect your mornings from distraction. Reclaim your evenings from chaos. What you allow around you will either fertilize your growth or poison your roots. Guard your circle, for your circle is your mirror. And remember this final truth. A positive mental attitude that never quits is not an occasional state. It is not what you display on your best day. It is your average, your baseline, your default. It is how you think when no one is watching, how you act when no one is applauding, how you endure when no one is helping. It is forged in private before it is displayed in public. If you want to build it, you must practice daily emotional hygiene, cleaning out doubt, reframing fear, rejecting excuses, affirming belief, and acting with courage. The wealth of life does not belong to the most educated, nor the most talented, nor the most connected. It belongs to the one who refuses to quit. And refusal is not an act of desperation, it is an act of faith, an act of identity, an act of decision. Decide today that you will not surrender, no matter the obstacle, no matter the delay, no matter the rejection. Decide that your mental attitude will remain positive in the darkest night and strongest storm. Decide that persistence will be your companion, faith your guide, and purpose your compass. For when you decide, the universe begins to move in your favor. Opportunities appear. Allies emerge. Strength multiplies. And you will discover so clearly that the greatest secret of success is not external, but internal. It is not what happens to you, but what happens within you. Build a positive mental attitude that never quits, and you will not merely survive life, you will conquer it. If you have understood the foundation of a positive mental attitude, then you must also realize that knowledge without practice is wasted power. A strong mental attitude is not built through theory. It is forged through action. You cannot read about courage and suddenly be courageous. You must step into fearful situations and prove to yourself that you can rise. You cannot imagine persistence and suddenly be persistent. You must endure the days where nothing works and press forward anyway. The building of an unbreakable mind comes through trial, through daily choices, through the refusal to surrender when defeat whispers in your ear. What you rehearse in thought, you must confirm in action, or else your attitude will crumble the moment pressure comes. The mind is like a battlefield, and every day a war is waged between faith and fear, between persistence and surrender, between optimism and despair. The one that wins is the one you feed. If you constantly nourish thoughts of failure, you become your own saboteur. If you feed yourself doubt, you create paralysis. But if you feed faith, you create courage. If you feed optimism, you attract opportunity. And if you feed persistence, you make quitting impossible. Most people live unconscious of this war. They let thoughts come and go without discipline, and so their minds are hijacked by fear and negativity. The individual who builds a positive mental attitude that never quits is different. He stands guard at the door of his mind. He allows no destructive thought to plant itself. He replaces weakness with strength, fear with faith, doubt with conviction. He understands that mastery of life begins with mastery of thought. You must realize that every adversity contains within it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. This is not merely a comforting phrase, it is a law of life. When setbacks strike, the weak curse their fate, but the strong look for the seed. They ask, what can I learn? What can I gain? What can I transform from this? When Edison's laboratory burned down with years of work destroyed, he did not weep. He said, now we can start fresh. When obstacles appear, you can see them as curses or you can see them as opportunities to grow mental muscle. And here is the truth. Without adversity, you cannot build strength. Without rejection, you cannot build persistence. Without resistance, you cannot build power. Every failure is simply training. Every disappointment is sharpening your blade. And when you begin to see challenges this way, your attitude shifts from despair to determination, from complaint to conquest. A positive mental attitude that never quits requires more than just belief in yourself. It requires an ability to transform how you interpret events. The same event that breaks one man builds another. The difference is not the event, but the attitude toward it. Two men may lose their jobs. One says, "This is the end," and collapses. The other says, "This is the opportunity I needed to finally create my own path," and becomes wealthy. The difference lies in how they frame adversity. This is why I say that your only limitation is the one you set in your own mind. The world cannot defeat a man who refuses to see defeat as final. The world cannot break a woman who refuses to interpret loss as anything but temporary. But let me speak to you clearly. Positivity is not pretending everything is easy. It is not ignoring problems. It is not blind hope. It is the deliberate choice to face problems with solutions, to confront difficulty with courage, to treat setbacks as stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. It is the discipline of refusing to indulge in self-pity, the decision to stop complaining, the determination to use your energy for building instead of blaming. Most people think a positive attitude is naive, but in reality, it is the highest form of power because it allows you to create solutions where others only see problems. It makes you resourceful, adaptive, and resilient. The danger of negativity is subtle. It begins with small complaints, small excuses, small doubts, until it becomes a habit. And once a habit, it is as difficult to break as any addiction. Negativity spreads like a virus. It infects your conversations, your actions, your relationships, your decisions. Soon you find yourself surrounded by others who complain, who doubt, who excuse, because like attracts like. And together you build an environment of failure. The only antidote is vigilance. Each time you catch yourself speaking a word of lack, replace it with a word of abundance. Each time you are tempted to complain, stop and give thanks. Each time you are tempted to quit, remind yourself that persistence always pays. Repetition of these small corrections builds the mental discipline that becomes your shield. You cannot build this attitude in isolation from your environment. As I said before, environment is amplifier. Your mind will either be lifted or poisoned by those around you. You cannot expect to think like a millionaire while spending your time with those who glorify poverty. You cannot build boldness while surrounded by those who celebrate fear. You cannot construct optimism while feeding your mind daily with media designed to create fear and anger. Guard your environment as you would guard your treasure, because your mind is more precious than any jewel. Surround yourself with people who inspire you, who challenge you, who demand your greatness. Place symbols of your goals in your environment so that every day you are reminded of where you are going. Protect your mornings from gossip, your evenings from distraction, and your mind from poison. Now let us speak of decision. The reason most people fail to build an unbreakable attitude is that they never fully decide. They dabble. They experiment. They say, "I'll try." But trying is weak. Decision is strong. To decide is to cut off all other possibilities. To decide is to burn the ships so there is no retreat. To decide is to declare, no matter what comes, I will not quit. That decision changes your entire psychology. It strengthens your will. It eliminates hesitation. It makes quitting impossible because quitting is no longer an option. The strongest attitudes are born in the moment of decision. The man who decides to succeed will persist through obstacles that would crush the undecided. The woman who decides to rise will endure rejections that would silence the hesitant. Decision transforms weakness into power. Once you decide, you must back your decision with daily discipline. Discipline is the bridge between belief and reality. Discipline is what allows a positive mental attitude to become a permanent state instead of a passing emotion. Discipline means you do what is required whether you feel like it or not. It means you persist in your affirmations, your gratitude, your actions, even on the days when your mind is tired and your body is weary. It means you guard your thoughts every day, not just when convenient. Discipline is not punishment. It is liberation, because it frees you from the slavery of moods, impulses, and external control. A man without discipline is a slave to circumstance. A man with discipline is a master of fate. If you wonder why so few maintain a positive mental attitude, it is because discipline is rare. People want easy results without sacrifice. They want the reward without the persistence. They want confidence without decision. But there is no shortcut. To build an attitude that never quits requires sacrifice. You must sacrifice laziness. You must sacrifice negativity. You must sacrifice the desire for immediate gratification. And in return, you gain strength, resilience, faith, and ultimate success. It is always a trade, the old weak self for the new powerful one. Finally, let us remember the role of belief. You do not receive what you want, you receive what you believe. Wanting is weak because it is rooted in lack. Believing is strong because it is rooted in certainty. The man who wants success still doubts. The man who believes in success already possesses it in spirit. Belief creates confidence. Belief radiates energy. Belief attracts resources. Belief transforms how others perceive you. When you believe deeply, people sense it. They cannot explain it. But they feel drawn to you. They trust you. They open doors for you. This is not magic. It is alignment. The world rewards those who carry certainty. If you wish to build a positive mental attitude that never quits, you must believe before you see, not see before you believe. So I say to you, every day is a test. Every thought is a seed. Every action is a declaration. Are you building strength or weakness? Are you programming persistence or surrender? Are you creating faith or fear? The choice is yours, and the consequences are inevitable. You are not a victim of fate. You are the author of your destiny. Build a mind that refuses to quit, and the world will eventually bow to your persistence. Build a positive attitude that endures all storms, and you will not only succeed, you will inspire others to rise with you. For the man who conquers his own mind is greater than the man who conquers 1,000 cities. And the woman who refuses to surrender her optimism, no matter the struggle, carries within her the seed of greatness. If you have walked with me this far, then you understand that the mind is the foundation of every victory or defeat, and that persistence fused with faith creates a force the world cannot deny. Yet let me take you deeper. For to build a positive mental attitude that never quits requires more than thoughts and beliefs. It requires a complete reorganization of how you see yourself, how you respond to life, and how you interpret the meaning of your existence. You must move from mere intellectual understanding to emotional embodiment. You must train not only your conscious mind, but also your subconscious spirit. For it is not enough to say you will persist. You must become persistence itself. When I studied the most successful men of my age, I discovered a universal truth. Each had suffered tremendous failures, humiliations, and defeats, yet each refused to accept those defeats as final. Andrew Carnegie began poor and uneducated, yet his determination and mental discipline created one of the largest fortunes in history. Henry Ford faced bankruptcy before building the automobile empire that revolutionized the world. Edison, mocked and ridiculed, continued experimenting when all logic said stop. What linked them was not intelligence, for many were no more intelligent than average men. It was not luck, for luck had little to do with repeated perseverance. What linked them was an unshakable belief that they would ultimately succeed, coupled with an unwillingness to quit. They had burned the word surrender out of their vocabulary. But how does one reach such a state? It begins with identity. Most people fail not because they lack ability, but because they carry within themselves an identity too small for their vision. They dream like kings, but think like beggars. They desire abundance, but believe they are unworthy. They set goals, but secretly doubt whether they can achieve them. And so when failure comes, they accept it as confirmation of their unworthiness. The secret then is to recondition your identity. You must believe that success is not something external to you, but something you are already destined to embody. You must train your mind to say, I am persistence. I am resilience. I am destined for greatness. When this belief saturates your spirit, quitting becomes impossible, because quitting would be a violation of who you believe yourself to be. The process of identity transformation requires repetition. Every day, you must rehearse the emotions of success before they manifest in the material world. You must imagine yourself already victorious, already strong, already unshakable. You must walk as if, talk as if, carry yourself as if. This is not deception, it is alignment. For the subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between what is vividly imagined and what is real. And when you saturate your subconscious with images of victory, it begins to create circumstances that reflect that victory. But if you saturate it with fear, with lack, with defeat, then that is the reality it constructs. Your inner movie becomes your outer destiny. Do not misunderstand me. This is not about pretending problems do not exist. Problems will always exist. But the individual who trains his mind to carry a positive attitude sees problems differently. He interprets them as temporary, not permanent. He views them as specific, not universal. He looks for solutions rather than rehearsing complaints. And because he does this consistently, his subconscious begins to expect solutions. It begins to expect victory. And expectation is power. For the man who expects victory will search for it until he finds it, while the man who expects defeat will surrender before the battle is even finished. Now let us address the silent poison that kills more dreams than failure itself: discouragement. Discouragement is the assassin of persistence. It creeps in after repeated efforts yield no result, whispering that your labor is wasted. It tempts you to compare your progress with others, to measure your pace against their timeline, and in doing so, convinces you that you are behind. But remember this law: every seed has its own season. The farmer does not plant a seed and expect a tree overnight. He waters, he waits, he protects, he endures storms, and only after time does the harvest appear. Life operates by the same principle. Your persistence today may not yield fruit tomorrow, but in time, if you refuse to quit, the harvest is guaranteed. Discouragement is simply impatience in disguise. Do not confuse delay with denial. Delay is preparation. Denial comes only when you quit. Another enemy of persistence is the craving for external validation. Too many allow their positive attitude to depend on the opinions of others. They work hard so long as they are praised. They endure so long as others cheer. But the moment the applause fades, they falter. This is weakness. For if your faith depends on the validation of others, you will collapse the moment criticism comes. And criticism will always come. Every man or woman who has risen to greatness has been mocked, doubted, ridiculed. If they had allowed the opinions of the crowd to define their belief, history would not remember them. You must therefore build an attitude rooted in self-validation. You must decide that your persistence is justified, not because others see it, but because you have chosen it. When your validation comes from within, the ridicule of others becomes fuel rather than poison. Let me speak also of desire, for no persistence can exist without it. Desire is the fire that fuels endurance. Without a burning desire, you will quit at the first obstacle. But when desire is white hot, it becomes impossible to extinguish. That's why I have said, the starting point of all achievement is desire. I did not say talent or education or opportunity. I said desire. If your desire is weak, strengthen it. Read daily about your goal. Surround yourself with images of what you want. Speak about it. Dream about it. Fan the flames until they consume you. For when desire burns within you, your attitude gains power and persistence becomes natural. You do not have to force yourself to persist when your heart burns with longing. You persist because you cannot stop. Yet desire must be guided by faith. Many desire, but few believe. They wish for success, but secretly doubt it will come. They dream of greatness, but sabotage themselves with disbelief. Desire without faith is fantasy. Faith without desire is dormant. But desire fused with faith becomes an unstoppable engine. And when persistence is added, success becomes inevitable. You must therefore train both your desire and your faith. Desire gives you the fuel. Faith keeps you steady when storms rage. Let us now consider the role of habit. Your attitude is not what you feel in moments of inspiration. It is the sum of your daily habits. If your habits are rooted in weakness, your attitude will falter. If your habits are rooted in strength, your attitude will remain unshakable. Success is nothing more than the consistent execution of small positive habits. Reading, affirming, visualizing, acting, serving, and persisting. These small acts, compounded over time, create greatness. But failure is also built through habit. Complaining, doubting, quitting, procrastinating. Each day you practice one or the other. Each day you either strengthen your resolve or weaken it. There is no neutrality. You are always training your mind. The question is, are you training it to persist or to quit? The most powerful way to build persistence is to make persistence your default response. Do not wait until crisis strikes to decide whether you will endure. Decide now. Train now. Condition yourself so that the moment resistance comes, your reflex is to push forward, not pull back. When the door closes, knock again. When the path is blocked, find another. When failure comes, learn and continue. Make persistence automatic. Make quitting unthinkable. Build this through repetition until it becomes identity. And remember this, persistence is not stubbornness. It is not repeating the same error without adjustment. Persistence is adaptive. It is flexible. It is willing to change strategies, but never the goal. It says, if this door is locked, I will find another, but I will not abandon the destination. It learns, it grows, it adapts, but it never quits. That is the difference between foolish obstinacy and true persistence. Ultimately, a positive mental attitude that never quits is not just about reaching your goals. It is about becoming the kind of person who cannot be defeated. For even if the world strips you of wealth, recognition, or comfort, the man who has mastered his own mind is still victorious. He carries within him a treasure no loss can steal, the certainty that he cannot be conquered. This is the ultimate power. For when you carry it, opportunity cannot resist you. People are drawn to you, and success becomes inevitable. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer beg, you command. You no longer falter, you rise. So I ask you, will you allow fear to dictate your path? Will you allow delay to discourage you? Will you allow negativity to poison your mind? Or will you build within yourself the mental fortress of persistence, faith, and desire? Will you decide once and for all that you will not quit, no matter the obstacle? For the choice is yours, and the consequences are eternal. You are not here to live small. You are not here to surrender. You are here to conquer, to persist, to endure, to win. And you will, if you build the one thing that no force on earth can destroy, a positive mental attitude that never quits. By now you understand that the greatest battlefield is the human mind, and the greatest victory is the conquest of your own thoughts. But let us press further, because persistence and positive attitude are not merely individual virtues, they are forces that transform your relationships, your opportunities, and the very way the world responds to you. When you carry a positive mental attitude that refuses to quit, you become magnetic. People sense it. They feel it before you speak. They see it in the way you move. They hear it in the conviction of your voice. And because the world is always searching for certainty, they gravitate to you. This is one of the great unseen advantages of cultivating an undefeatable spirit. You do not just change your inner life, you change your outer influence. Think of how many people wander through life uncertain, doubtful, insecure. They are constantly asking themselves if they are capable, if they are worthy, if they can succeed. Their aura is hesitation. Their presence whispers uncertainty. And because of that, opportunities pass them by. People hesitate to trust them. Employers hesitate to promote them. Investors hesitate to back them. Not because they lack skill, but because they radiate doubt. Contrast this with the man who has trained his attitude to be positive and persistent. He may not yet have the result in hand, but his energy says it is inevitable. His voice carries conviction, his posture carries faith, his actions carry momentum, and others respond. They want to follow him, invest in him, partner with him, because his attitude inspires belief in their own success. This is why I said that a positive mental attitude is the greatest asset a person can carry. It does not merely serve you, it serves everyone who encounters you. But let us not forget that the world will test your attitude. It will not reward you immediately simply because you decide to persist. On the contrary, the moment you commit to never quitting is often the moment the greatest obstacles appear. Life is asking you, are you serious? Do you mean it? Will you persist when it gets harder than you imagined? And most people fail that test. They mistake resistance for rejection, when in truth, resistance is confirmation. The greater the resistance, the more certain it is that your goal is worth achieving. Diamonds are not created without pressure, steel is not forged without fire, and greatness is not born without resistance. If you are tested, rejoice, for it means you are on the right path. Do not confuse this principle. Life does not hand its rewards to the lazy, the casual, or the hesitant. It yields only to the determined. It yields only to those who stand when others sit, who continue when others quit, who believe when others doubt. The rewards of life are not random. They are earned by persistence. That is why you must decide, once and for all, that quitting is no longer an option. The man who removes quitting from his vocabulary is already halfway to victory. Now, you may say, but I think positively, I visualize, I affirm, and still I do not see results. Then I must ask you, do you feel what you affirm, or do you only speak words? Do you embody what you visualize, or do you only dream without action? For the universe does not respond to empty declarations, it responds to energy, to alignment, to congruence between thought, feeling, and action. You cannot chant affirmations of success while allowing fear to dominate your nervous system. You cannot imagine abundance while continuing to act from scarcity. You cannot visualize victory while surrounding yourself with environments of defeat. A positive mental attitude is not performance, it is integration. It must become the natural state of your being. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions agree, your signal becomes powerful and persistence becomes effortless. Let me remind you of the law of substitution. The human mind cannot hold two opposing thoughts with equal power at the same time. If you occupy your mind with positive belief, negative doubt cannot dominate. If you focus on solutions, problems shrink in significance. If you rehearse gratitude, complaints lose their grip. This is why daily practice matters. You cannot simply decide once to be positive and expect it to remain. The weeds of negativity grow daily. You must uproot them daily. You must choose over and over to replace fear with faith, doubt with determination, weakness with strength. This is the practice of mental discipline, and those who master it create lives of extraordinary power. Do not underestimate the role of service in building an undefeatable attitude. When you dedicate yourself to contributing to others, your own problems shrink. The man who wakes each morning only thinking of himself becomes consumed by his worries. But the man who wakes thinking of how he may serve others fills himself with purpose. And purpose generates persistence. Purpose makes sacrifice bearable. Purpose makes obstacles smaller. When you attach your positive mental attitude to a mission greater than yourself, you tap into an inexhaustible source of energy. You stop asking, can I endure this? And you start saying, I must endure this because others are counting on me. That sense of responsibility fuels persistence more deeply than selfish desire ever could. Let us address fear directly, for fear is the most common enemy of persistence. Fear of failure, fear of criticism, fear of loss. Fear whispers in every mind. But here is the truth. Fear is nothing but imagination used incorrectly. It is faith in the wrong direction. It is belief in defeat before it even arrives. To overcome fear, you must do what you fear. Take the step, make the call, confront the challenge. Each time you act in the face of fear, you shrink it. Each time you avoid it, you strengthen it. A positive mental attitude does not eliminate fear. It conquers fear by action. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is persistence despite fear. The brave man feels fear but continues anyway. And because he continues, his fear diminishes while his faith grows. Let us also address fatigue, for fatigue destroys more dreams than failure itself. The body grows weary, the mind becomes tired, and the spirit begins to weaken. But fatigue is often not physical, it is mental. It comes from worry, from anxiety, from carrying the weight of imagined defeat. The man who works hard with enthusiasm rarely complains of fatigue, but the man who works in doubt tires quickly. This is why attitude matters even to health. A positive mental attitude creates energy. It fills the body with vitality. It makes persistence possible because it renews itself through faith and enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is one of the great secrets. It is contagious. It multiplies energy, and it can be cultivated, for it is born not of circumstance but of choice. Choose enthusiasm, and you defeat fatigue. But above all, let me give you this law. You do not receive in life what you merely want. You receive what you prepare yourself to handle. Desire without readiness leads to disappointment. Readiness means emotional strength, mental discipline, spiritual alignment. If you desire wealth but fear responsibility, wealth will elude you. If you desire opportunity but doubt yourself, opportunity will pass you. If you desire success but quit at resistance, success will avoid you. But if you prepare yourself, if you train your mind to be positive, if you refuse to quit no matter what, if you carry yourself as one already destined for greatness, then life has no choice but to yield. It cannot deny the prepared, so I urge you, guard your thoughts, for they become your reality. Guard your habits, for they become your character. Guard your persistence, for it becomes your destiny. The man who masters his attitude masters his future. The woman who refuses to quit shapes history. Decide today that you will not be counted among the ordinary, among those who tried for a while and then gave up. Decide that you will be remembered as one who endured, one who persisted, one who overcame. For in the end, the difference between those who succeed and those who fail is not chance, not talent, not circumstance. It is attitude. And attitude, once built with persistence, becomes unbreakable. A man or woman who has cultivated a positive mental attitude that never quits stands at the very threshold of mastery. But mastery requires one final transformation. You must not only possess this attitude, you must live it so fully that it becomes inseparable from your very being. Many speak positively, but only in moments of inspiration. Many persist for a while, but only until the storms of life test their strength. Few carry within themselves a flame so constant, so unshakable, that no wind, no failure, no loss can extinguish it. To arrive at this place, you must make positivity and persistence not just practices, but your nature. It must no longer be something you try to do. It must be who you are. The difference between those who temporarily succeed and those who permanently succeed is found here. Temporary success belongs to those who can endure when conditions are favorable, when momentum is visible, when results are near. Permanent success belongs to those who can endure when there is no applause, when there is no evidence, when all signs point to defeat. This is the test that separates the transient achievers from the legends. The legends are those who believed when no one else did, who carried faith when evidence mocked them, who persisted in the silence of obscurity until the world had no choice but to notice. And when the world finally noticed, it declared them geniuses, forgetting the years they spent unacknowledged. But you must not forget, for therein lies the blueprint. This blueprint demands that you learn to draw strength not from circumstances, but from within. You cannot allow yourself to be dependent on external results for your motivation. If your spirit is lifted only when you see progress, then you will falter during the inevitable dry seasons. But if your spirit is lifted because you know who you are and what you are becoming, then you remain strong regardless of external conditions. That is the essence of a positive mental attitude that never quits. To persist in faith even when evidence is absent, to continue sowing seeds even when the ground looks barren, to keep moving forward even when the road is uphill and endless. For in truth, the barren ground is only sleeping, the uphill road is only training, and the absence of evidence is not the absence of progress. One of the greatest secrets to building such resilience is learning to master your inner dialogue. Every day, countless thoughts flow through your mind. Some are empowering, some are destructive. Most people allow this dialogue to run uncontrolled. becoming slaves to its fluctuations. But you must become the master. You must consciously choose what voices to amplify and what voices to silence. When doubt whispers, you must speak louder with faith. When fear shouts, you must answer with courage. When fatigue tempts you, you must command yourself to rise. Speak to yourself with the authority of a leader. For if you do not lead your own mind, your mind will lead you into defeat. The man who talks to himself with strength becomes strong. The woman who affirms herself with conviction becomes unshakable. Your words are programming your subconscious every day. Be certain you are programming it for victory, not failure. Understand also the power of emotional control. To maintain a positive attitude, you must not allow temporary emotions to dictate permanent decisions. How many quit because of a single bad day? How many abandon their dream because of temporary discouragement? Emotions are like weather. They shift, they pass, they rise and fall. But the man who allows emotions to dictate action becomes as unstable as the storm. The man who masters his emotions becomes as steady as the mountain. A positive mental attitude does not mean you will never feel fear, doubt, sadness, or anger. It means you refuse to let those emotions rule your life. You acknowledge them, but you do not obey them. You feel them, but you act from faith, not from fear. And in this you grow stronger, because every time you refuse to let an emotion control you, you gain mastery over yourself. Now let us consider the principle of definiteness once more, for it is the compass without which persistence wanders. Without a clear purpose, your persistence will be scattered. You will try here, then there, and abandon both when results do not come. But with a definite aim, every action aligns. Every setback becomes a stepping stone. Every delay becomes training. A man with a definite purpose becomes immune to distraction. He no longer wastes energy chasing what does not serve his mission. He says no to lesser things because he has said yes to something greater. His purpose fuels his positive attitude because he knows where he is going. And when you know where you are going, no storm can turn you back, because every storm becomes part of the journey. At this stage, you must also embrace the principle of growth through struggle. Too many see struggle as a curse, as something to be avoided at all costs. But the man with a positive mental attitude sees struggle as the very gymnasium of the spirit. He understands that muscles are built only through resistance, that character is forged only through hardship, that faith is strengthened only when tested. Every difficulty you endure with persistence is building within you the strength for future victories. Do not resent your struggles. Embrace them as training. The very obstacles that seem to oppose you are in truth shaping you into someone capable of handling the success you seek. If success came without struggle, you would not have the strength to hold it. But because you persist through difficulty, you become worthy of your destiny. Now let us rise to the highest principle, contribution. For the final transformation of a positive mental attitude that never quits is to realize that your persistence is not only for yourself, but for those you will inspire and serve. When you persist, you prove to others what is possible. When you maintain faith, you become a light to those in darkness. When you refuse to quit, you give courage to those ready to surrender. Your life becomes a testimony that greatness is not reserved for the few, but available to anyone who chooses persistence. And in serving others, your strength multiplies. The man who lives only for himself eventually tires. The man who lives for a cause, for a vision, for the upliftment of others never runs dry. For contribution creates purpose, and purpose creates endless energy. The world today is filled with those who quit. They quit their dreams, they quit their marriages, they quit their visions, they quit on themselves. And in quitting, they create a culture of mediocrity. But you must not join them. You must stand as a defiant example of persistence. You must refuse to bow to the culture of quitting. You must show through your life that a positive mental attitude is stronger than fear, stronger than failure, stronger than circumstance. For when enough men and women rise with such resolve, the very culture begins to shift. History is not changed by the masses. It is changed by the few who refuse to quit when the masses surrender. So let me leave you with this final charge. Decide here and now that your attitude will be your fortress. Decide that no matter what storm arises, you will not collapse. Decide that no matter how long it takes, you will persist. Decide that your purpose is greater than your pain, your faith is greater than your fear, your persistence is greater than any obstacle. And each day, prove this decision through action. Persist in your affirmations. Persist in your gratitude. Persist in your work. Persist in your service. Persist in your vision. For persistence is not a single act, it is a lifestyle. And a lifestyle of persistence, built on the foundation of a positive mental attitude, makes you unstoppable. Remember this truth. The greatest victories in life are not given to the fastest, nor the strongest, nor the most talented. They are given to the one who refuses to quit. The world has no defense against a man or woman who will not stop. Eventually, the door opens. Eventually, the opportunity arrives. Eventually, the dream manifests. And when it does, it will not surprise you, because you will know it was never a matter of if, but only of when. For the man who persists with faith and positivity does not wonder whether he will succeed. He knows it is already written. He is simply walking out what is already his. Therefore, live with this truth engraved in your soul. You are not weak. You are not defeated. You are not destined for mediocrity. You are strong. You are chosen. You are capable of greatness. Build a positive mental attitude that never quits. And nothing, no man, no failure, no storm can stand in your way. This is not philosophy, it is law. And once you live it, the world will bend to it. Persist, believe, endure, and rise. The crown of victory belongs to you if only you refuse to quit.